Hello, Greg.
Hello, David.
How's
Welcome
the being
back.
here? It was a
Long
journey.
time no see.
You know, it's been. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I see you like all the time.
Well, that's true. You know
So
what? I'm
I
just
don't see you
gonna.
here all the time because sick again. Yeah,
Yeah, well, you know,
long-term sick. That's what I do.
I'm gonna. I had my lower third on, so it looked funny because I had two
Oh,
Greg, so I
double
got
the thirds.
I got rid of it, so it's all fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't used OBS in like a month, so I've been using Restream. So
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a OBS is a different beast. I like it. I think Dominic, it's good to be back. I have gains like my voice is actually stronger now. It's just now I sound like a head cold, right? So
right.
it's it's been interesting for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find my pop-out chat so I can
Pop out
actually see
chat.
the chat. One sec.
Oh yeah, it's in my
Um,
OBS. I set it up
hopefully,
that way.
um, Dominic, can you hear both of us? I just want to make sure that our audio is good.
Yeah, the last time I used this what was a month ago, and they were saying it was quiet, but it's peaking louder than the music was now. So, yup, he says.
Excellent.
Nice. So, um, I'm gonna like throw a wrench in the whole planned show notes. I mean, we did the welcome beans, so that was really good.
We
I
haven't.
I know that.
We said hello. Yeah.
Well, yeah, welcome beans. I know that this is out of date, guys, because sick.
I I have
Okay,
the current one.
do
I
it.
think. Oh, just let me just find it.
No pressure. I'll fill some time while he's finding it. So, um, we're gonna talk a little bit today about, well, obviously firmware because it's amazing, but like, we're gonna go into some of the beta stuff Creality has to offer, which is great. And I know lots of y'all following along. I've seen comments that you've been updating the new Kira, so like, 5 point whatever. So that's good. Greg, have you switched to Kira 5 or are you still at Prusa
I've been
or
using Kira, like I said I would, for an entire month,
and
and it's fine. It
yeah,
works good.
it works really good now. I have no complaints. Actually, don't wait. There's one. I've got
Well,
one complaint.
that's not the right one.
My complaint with the new Kira is that they still don't have a built-in split in half or split the model. You always have to like play with the drag below the build plate trick, and I wish that they would just put the split in there and be done.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. But we'll get there. There's more to that to come. Do you want me to just put up the old one?
No,
Okay.
because I
Oh,
got it.
well, hold on. Now I gotta switch to you because you're not full screen. Hold on, guys. I could do this. Sure. I think it's this one.
Yes, I've got it right. This is the one. Yeah, thanks to Hilge at Tree Supports and everyone else for being our supporters. It makes the streams possible, and we thank you so much. And I don't know if you can hear me because I just realized I don't know if. Okay, okay. I'm not seeing anything on my OBS, so but that's okay. Good. All right. And don't forget that we also have as a bonus, if you are a Patreon member, you can join us on Discord and chat with us there and share
Bonus.
stuff that's going on with you and prints you're doing and whatnot. And yeah, so Dominic's been sharing all morning stuff that's going on. He posted, I think.
Hey,
A
pumpkin.
pumpkin that he printed. So
Can I actually like go
yeah,
full screen? I can. Let's see here. I'm definitely not set up for this. Oh, I am too. Look at this. Ready? Are you ready for this? Because
I'm
this is
ready
going to
for
be
this.
amazing.
There we go. Yeah.
Overhang on those teeth will be
The teeth are
interesting.
very scary.
Spooky, very spooky. I love it. I love it. Now this is where I'm going to hijack a bit of the roadmap plan. I don't know if it was yesterday. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. It says yesterday. I wanted to talk a little bit about model finishing. We were having, Dominic and I were having like a very brief, we'll call it conversation. But he was asking like if I wanted to preserve the finish color of the filament, right? Like I've printed it in the right colors. Do I still need to prime it? Can I just put a primer clear coat on it? Like what's kind of the what's the thing and how to do that? And so we got to talking, and so to answer that question, most people when they're finishing models are finishing it so one that it smooths it out, and after they paint it, it looks smooth again, so
Right.
it doesn't look like it's been printed. And that would be a primer filler, what they use. So like picture like you can get automotive primer filler, and you spray it on, turns the whole thing gray, and then you paint it. Well, first you sand it, then you spray it again, and then you sand it. You do it about 4 times. So you spray your primer filler on, wait for it to dry, sand it, spray the next coat of primer filler on, wait for it to dry, sand it. You can see where this is going. I'm not going to say it 4 times.
But if you have a beautiful print,
if you have a beautiful print,
and you just want it to be kind of maybe even shinier, or depending on what kind of clear coat you put on it, because you can do matte or you can do glossy or whatever. Yeah, it'll just help seal it a bit.
Yep. And like so shellac,
but you'll see all the
for it.
layer lines.
You will.
But if you like the look, then it doesn't matter.
Right? Like it's how you want to finish it. So like if you were to say let's say you're going to finish most parts, but you really loved an orange that you printed, say like, I don't know, a sword handle in it, but the rest of the sword you're finishing. That's not a problem, but what I would say is to match because what happens when you finish it is you're adding material, right? Like, so when you're primer fillering some pieces, you're adding material, and then you take away by sanding, but you're adding a bit more in the end. And so like to combat that, and combat's probably not the right word, but to offset it, I would, shellac, Mod Podge, or clear coat, like with a resin. You could just go get a 2-part epoxy resin and just paint it on quick. But keep in mind, some of those, like the resin,
it might interact with your material.
And if you put too much on, when the resin kicks, it will melt whatever you're trying to preserve. So like a clear coat shellac would be great. You could do a couple coating and go.
Yeah, I think it has to do with what's the end result you want. Yep. If you just want it to be kind of shiny. And a couple weeks ago, Victor was asking about printing watertight models, like and whatnot. And so that's another way of potentially doing it. Is you print your print in whatever material you want, preferably something more waterproof. But you could then seal it. To fill in those gaps, with a clear coat or some sort of sealer, to allow it to be more watertight. So that is a technique we didn't talk about, because we were just talking literally about filament and whether your filament could be watertight, and it can be, but not often.
That has a lot to do with tuning your layer height in. Very good.
And we talked layer height. We talked about
and the flow should come up a
different
bit.
Temperatures of printing at, and different materials of printing at. So we talked about all of those. He specifically at that point was looking at PETG and whatnot for the job he was attempting to print. So
I mean, watertight's pretty. So like, getting watertight off your printer, like you said, like you can do it. But if you cheat, you can do it every time.
Yes.
Right? So if you want watertight and you're not sure if your printer can like handle watertight, yeah, hit it with some clear coat shellac, something on the inside of the print,
Yeah.
and it will be watertight.
So that begs the question, like, let's say you did cookie cutters, for example, right? People this time of year want to do a cookie cutter, and we've told people before that, you know, most of the materials we print with aren't food grade. Like, they may say they're food grade plastic, but once you print them and whatnot, technically, you know, the gaps and whatnot, you can't reuse them.
Yeah.
You can use them maybe once for one set of cookies and then toss it out. Now, with this shellacking or whatnot, could you potentially seal it up enough to be multi-use, or is that still a little sketchy and potential food poisoning?
Well, like, so here's the thing, right? Now, and I know we've talked about it and other guys have talked about it on the internet too. Like, it's not like a new thing, but food safe, anything you 3D print will never be food safe in like a restaurant or a kitchen. It just won't pass the grade.
No.
When you print from your 3D printer, unless you're like you've changed the nozzle out and some other stuff, the filament can be food grade, right? You can buy food grade safe filament, but when it goes through your printer, through the hot end, through the nozzle,
Contaminants are in there.
yeah, like the copper's full of lead. So do you want to do that to your brain? I mean,
Right.
and then it comes to, okay, well, I know I can't print, but I could print and I know I could coat it with something. And that's where it becomes a little safer, like Greg was saying. But at the same time, there's rules around everything, right? Like resin, even once it's cured, you don't put it near
Well,
your
yeah.
mouth.
No.
And so then it's like, okay, well, I'll Mod Podge it. That'll work. No, that's a resin. Like all of these clear coat things that you can apply after are technically some sort of resin. So it's like, it hurts my brain to say it. And that's why usually the answer is no, just go to the store and buy like a pumpkin cookie cutter for $1.
But you can make a one-time use cookie cutter.
I'll throw it away. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah, like you just like you can cut your shape out and then just once you're done your batch of cookies, your cookies are going in the oven. They're going to be cooked at a high temperature and whatnot. Just make sure that you're not leaving bits of PLA in your cookie.
I mean, it's not the PLA I would worry about. Like I've had my cat eat PLA, and like other than the upset stomach because he's an idiot, he's fine. But like it's more of like the long term. But I guess that's an ecological thing now too, right? Because apparently we're all eating microplastics at an alarming rate now. So it's like, what's that print really going to do bad for you?
Right. Yeah.
Dominic was saying my issue is that I only need to print a part of the model. If I use the primer, I lose the color and the filament of the whole model. Yeah, like so. Like honestly, in your case, like just print it, and then if it fits in without doing anything to it, great. If you need to like bring it up a little bit to beef up or even make it like Greg said, once you clear coat something, it becomes a little more gloss.
Yeah.
And it might fit in better. We got a hello from 2 people. Hello,
Yeah,
Matt,
Matthew.
and
Hey.
hello, local maker.
And Stig.
Oh yeah, Stig. Sorry, Stig. I can read. It's one of my skills. So Dominic has said something interesting.
Stainless steel.
You could always say the steel. I mean, I print with a steel nozzle, so I mean we're closer. It's not as soft as the brass.
Well, hey, you could technically do one of those. You do your cookie cutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you put it in the sand, right? And then you heat up aluminum, and you pour it in, and you make your cookie cutter out of aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely just clear lacquer would seal and health code sort it.
Maybe.
It depends. Like, so you're not wrong, Matthew, at all. It just
it's-
depends on the lacquer. You'd have
Yeah,
to look
and-
at and see how it
you would-
finishes.
you'd want it really smooth because if there's any nooks and crannies that are still available, you might get food contamination in those cracks. And if you didn't clean it well enough, the chances of that growing bacteria or something
PVA
is a
over the.
problem.
I like this second comment. Or PVA over the top layer. That'll do it. I mean, hot glue is non-toxic, right? So
Yeah.
just might add to it. I think it comes down to is like I wouldn't do it, but if you really want to do it, use them once and throw them away. They're not a reusable thing.
He's asking us if we have Blue Peter. I've heard of Blue Peter, but I'm not familiar enough with it to know Blue Peter. Sorry.
I'm Googling it because I don't know what he's talking about.
No, I've heard of it. But I don't know.
Like, are you talking like the TV British show?
I thought that's what I was thinking.
I think that's what he's talking about. So Dominic said something after we were talking about the pumpkin, and before we get there, I am going to integrate the Discord chat feed into the live streams. Now, so it won't show historic, but like if you post while we're streaming, it will show what you post in there. So if you post a picture or something, it'll pop up as an overlay in the YouTube. And we trust everybody in there explicitly not to be kids.
Yeah, we don't want to have to
No
kick
children.
someone out because we we don't specifically make this content for kids, but it's family friendly.
It is. And if you guys want to like get something on, if you're not in the Discord and you want to show us a picture or something, you can always tweet us out at our handles.
Or email us
Or
at
email us info at 3dmakeit.
3dmakeit.ca.
Yeah. And we'll hopefully get it. I say that while I'm not logged into Twitter at the moment. But then again, I apparently have closed all my show notes too. So, I mean, we're doing good. So Dominic said right after the pumpkin, or maybe right before the pumpkin, I can't remember. I've heard that Prusa may add tree supports any day now.
That would be cool. Right now,
They
I
already
looked.
have tree support.
Do they?
Well, yeah, it's just they don't integrate it into their PLA prints, right?
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So for their SLA, they have true. Yeah,
Like they have
but
half the math. there
I
to
think
do it.
he's referring to FDM printing, slicing.
Now, I don't know if many of you. So, like, it's been at least a month and 2 days since Prusa actually like had a release or an update on their GitHub, which is fine. Like that's not a bad thing.
But I think right now they're doing a bunch of stuff with like they were at Earth and Murph.
Oh yeah, like
stuff.
everybody's
And
busy.
so
I'm not saying.
So I don't think they're doing anything right now with that. Like they're probably doing stuff, but it's not for public viewing. We'll get some release previews right away, but the only one that's been doing stuff is Kira. Okay. I think I don't know. I don't think you can hear David right now. So, hey, Hilge. And Matthew, I know the Blue Peter reference as in the show, but I've never actually watched the show.
Never seen it.
We don't get it here in Canada, so yeah.
Hey, Elge.
So
I think I fixed the audio so they can hear me now. So that's really good. But they might have. Yeah, that's fine. So when you look at Prusa Slicer, I just brought this up before we talk about Kira for one reason. The first line, and I think Greg can see this, but it's backwards in our feed. So that's
no, I can see it. It's forwards.
The first line, this final release of Prusa Slicer 2.5 introducing the Arcane Perimeter Generator. Gee, who uses the Arcane Perimeter Generator, Greg?
Yeah, no, but we talked about this
I
when
know,
they
right?
they released it, and so yeah, I mean, they've been talking about how they thank
Oh yeah.
the Kira team for releasing it open source and whatnot, and so yeah, so it's, I mean, will tree supports come to
Maybe.
FDM printing in Prusa? Maybe. I mean, their paint on supports works really well,
It does,
and a lot
except
of
for the
a
pumpkin,
lot of their stuff.
right?
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that would be the one case. Like, so I'm not to like.
Well, you could change the orientation of the pumpkin when
Mhm.
it prints on the printer and stuff. Like
Dip it.
there's
Yeah.
techniques to make that printable.
The
Like
problem is with a
you
ball too, right? Like with a round
you
object like that,
right?
you're
It's
limited.
difficult. It's difficult.
But like
Like
when you're printing stuff like that, I would just say use Kira for now and just grab the tree supports.
so so my front print that I was doing last week, we kind of talked about it. So this one originally I printed it this way, and so all the layer lines were horizontal, and so it was cracking, and so I redid it with built-in supports, so that it would print at a 45, and so then the layer lines went just at a 45 this way, and that was a lot more rigid when actually putting a screw in and whatnot, because it wasn't splitting at a layer line, it was going across multiple layer lines. So there's lots of techniques to reorientate your model depending on the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah.
So there's lots of little things you can do to either, whether it's tree supports or it's something else like that. There's a lot of ways to doing
Yeah.
it. The pumpkin is a good candidate for tree supports, though.
Yep. Really good.
The way the teeth can be supported and everything, that's a great way of doing it.
Yeah.
So
So there's a good question from local baker. He asked, "How would you reduce the thickness of the seam?" And it's actually easier than you might think. First off, is make sure that your E steps are tuned and your flow is set correctly.
yeah,
Over
that makes a
extrusion
big difference.
is the worst enemy of huge seams. They get big,
Yeah.
bulky, and they'll be bulgy too, right? Like,
And placement of your seam, depending on which slicer you're using, is easier or not, depending on, because there's maybe features in your model that more will be better at hiding the seam, so it's not noticeable. So a lot of them used to default just to the rear of the model. Well,
which works. I mean,
it can work,
yeah.
but some of them, it will go to the sharpest corner.
Yep.
Or some of them will. So some of them, like for example, in Prusa, you can actually paint where you want the seam to be. So you can actually choose going up the model where all these seams are. But like you said, the E-steps, the flow and whatnot, if you can get that more accurate, then that will help reduce the prominence of the seam.
Yeah. That's
Also,
the only way to reduce the prominence of your seam.
the Arcane engine helps too,
Well,
because
the wipe
of the
happens
way,
on the inside, right?
yeah, right. So some of that makes a difference. I also noticed your wall count. If you don't have enough walls, sometimes your seam is more prominent, depending on which wall it starts printing or stops printing first and whatnot. So that's something to think about too, is the order of the wall printing, and depending on which slicer you're using, it has different logic.
Yeah, like Kira actually handles. I mean, since they're using the same engine now, they're getting closer. But Kira has always, even before the Arachne, and fixed it for you.
Yeah.
Engine. Even before that, they actually had a different white pattern. So was it about 3 or 4 years ago? People were talking about stringing, which is actually very similar to why your seams are so big sometimes.
Right.
And Kira was doing like almost no stringing versus the Prusa slicer of the time, which was still before the modern version. So it was based off of like the Slick 3R.
Slick 3, yeah.
But like like it was noticeably different. And then when you looked at the G code breakdown, you could see that when the print head moved around the circle to move out to the next part, it was actually wiping on the inside and then moving. And I think that would be ideal, but like that the print in place sword that local makers trying to build are notoriously difficult, especially
They're tricky, especially with the wall width
yeah.
and line width. Like you gotta have your printer tuned pretty well.
And I'm gonna mess your name up. Cataldo Urso is right. Coasting is one of the settings in Cura that's existed for a
Yep.
long time. That helps with the
Yep.
not only stringing, but it also helps with the seams, because the seam is a product of turning. Right, that's where the next layer starts. So if you can tune your retraction, get that flow in there, and then make sure that you're actually extruding, like in the firmware side of things, the correct amount of filament, you will reduce that. Now on the sword, one thing that you could try too is changing from an aligned scene in the slicer, and you can change it to random, and then that will move that bulk around a bit.
And he did mention that he is using Prusa 2.5.
Yeah, and so in Prusa you can definitely set that seam so it's not aligned. And Kira too. Actually, it's funny, we're getting closer to the same features in both. So
yeah, but that's when products mature. That's what happens. Like you look at all the phones; they're all a rectangle slab.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we have
because
one form
that's
feature.
one of the most practical forms that has come out of what everyone's used to, right? So it's with anything else, like most bikes have two wheels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because and a frame to hold them, like because it's got tweaked over the years, but really for the last few hundred years, bikes look very similar.
They do. They really do.
Right. So it's one of those things. Over time, you've got all these new features that are coming and whatnot, and then slowly they mature into a very unified thing.
Yeah. And so, there are features like XY compensation too. That's what they exist for. So the stuff in the slicer exists a lot of the times to make sure that you can retweak your printer's firmware. Like when you look at Clipper, you can change the settings on the fly in Clipper fairly easy, most of them, without recompiling. In Marlin, you have some settings that you can tweak, but the overall ease of management of Marlin is in recompiling sometimes, and your flow rate and your E steps and that stuff can be tweaked on the fly. But when you're looking at changing some settings, Marlin does lag behind. But for the seam, I would definitely say start with just making sure your E steps are looking good, your flow's looking good.
So Matthew has an interesting question.
Yeah, I have to say one more thing. I saw it.
Yeah, you bet.
And in Prusa, just so that you know, you don't have to have advanced settings on, but it's in the advanced settings section on your print settings.
Yeah.
And it's seam position. And make sure that you don't have, so you can change to random, but make sure you don't do external perimeters first. And if you're getting lumpy in Prusa, you can try turning off fill gaps. So that way it doesn't it'll just wipe and continue. So that's kind of in Prusa the last three things.
Yeah, you don't want to add extra material if you don't have to.
Right. It is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
So Matthew posed a question. Does anyone have methodology or guidance on material being able to scale a print while retaining bolt hole, gauge diameter, depths, bolts, head recesses, and keeping them accurate for nuts? So as soon as you start changing your X, Y, and Z axis on a STL and whatnot, you are going to change the proportions and whatnot. Without specifically bringing it into a CAD program and whatnot, and scaling it there so that you can maintain the accuracy of those. I don't know of a way off the top of my head, because you can really warp stuff.
Like
Now,
Pathio had a way of doing it, but it never really
yeah,
worked, and then they went away.
and then they went away. I mean, yeah. So I personally, what I've done in the past is, you depending on what you're trying to do with it, you can slice the sections and leave the section with the bolt, and then elongate the other sections, but you may not get the result you're looking for. So it really depends on the model you're working with. If you can find the original CAD, or if you are skilled enough to bring it into like Fusion and be able to either recreate it over top and align it so that you can draw your holes in the right positions. That's another way of doing it, where I've done it in the past, where I wanted to, like, for this model here, I didn't like the way they designed it, but he had done a good job getting everything else accurate, because why would you print it like this when you could print it like this and have the edges come out way better and whatnot? So I didn't like it. So I basically drew over top of the model and extruded and redesigned this whole thing so I could then manipulate it any way I want. So there's lots of different techniques to that, but just scaling it like in the slicer, I don't think you're going to get good results.
There's absolutely no way to do it in a slicer. It's just
Yeah.
it's the way the logic works. Because when you
Yeah.
scale XYZ, it scales XYZ, which means
Yeah.
everything scales.
Yeah, and if you just scale in one dimension, you're going to get an oblong bolt hole.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple ways to fix it. Like you could, the only way to fix it though is go into CAD,
Yeah.
and or a CAD builder software.
Yeah.
Mesh Mixer could help you out probably too. Tinkercad, yes. Yeah. And so, when it's a simple hole, it's easy, right? But if it's something that's been like set to be like, okay, this is like a half inch or 13 millimeter hex head, and this is
Right,
going to
and
fit
you want to
in
capture
here.
it. Yeah.
You're going to have to go into CAD and just fix it after, unfortunately.
Yeah. And
Or
it depends. Like,
fortunately, that's the way
you know,
it is, right?
if it's a really complex model, then that's going to be difficult.
Yep.
Right. But if it's a simple model, you might be able to easily reproduce it in a CAD, depending on your skill level. Now, if you're like super duper CAD person, if it was complex, you might just say, I'll just build it myself.
Design it.
Right. So there's a number of ways to do it.
The caveat to all of that, guys, is before you rip somebody's model off or like take it and think, I'm going to make this better, so I'm just going to draw over it and extrude it, or pull it into CAD and make it a little bigger or whatever, make sure you check to see what the Creative Commons or
Right.
restrictions are on it, because if it's not like share alike, or you're free to use it or modify it, but for your personal use, if they've said like no derives, then you have to reach out to that model maker and be like, hey,
this is what I want.
I want to do this. Is it okay? I've reached out to a few people with success too, right? Like you have the STL up on Thingiverse. It says I can use it and modify it, but like, do you have the step files or the Fusion file
And
or the Tinkercad?
I've done the same thing.
Right? And you'll have some luck with it.
Yeah,
Most people don't care.
Yeah, depending on what you're doing, like they've either built it for themselves and whatnot, and they put it up there just in case someone else wants it. And then if they've still have the CAD files, most of them, if depending on how they've attributed it, right?
Yep.
They may be fully willing to let you have the CAD file and modify away. And I do that a lot with my models. Is if I build something, someone likes it, I will give them the Fusion one that, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But you may be horrified at my build sequence along the bottom and be, why did he do that? Well, because I was iterating as I went, and yeah, if I see the endpoint now,
Yeah.
I might have gone a simpler way to get there. But
Yeah, for sure.
if you look at my design history, you might be like horrified.
It would scare you a little bit. No, mine's the same way. And I think too, like you're always likely to get a response from people that have made like a part or a bracket more often than like, hey, can I have that super detailed model that you made of that character from the X-Men? No, that's you're not going to have good luck from that one. But like usually with brackets and stuff, Fusion work excellent for this, but usually it involves a total redesign. Yeah,
I agree, right. And that's kind of what I did is I took the base model. Yep. And then I did a total redesign.
Now, Fusion isn't the only, so Fusion's a really good one, but like Rhino and SolidWorks are right up there with Fusion. And
FreeCAD?
FreeCAD's even better because it has that word in it. Free, right?
But all of them have different learning curves.
Yep.
And whatnot. And I lean more towards Fusion just because I use it all the time.
Well, that's the one. The one we took time to learn. Yeah.
Right. So it's not that it's any better than anything else. I'm sure if I learned FreeCAD or SCAD or any of the other ones, maybe that would have been better. But I'm not a programmer. So is it SCAD that's the programmatic?
Yeah. So
OpenSCAD
is actually the answer to this problem.
Yes.
Because
right.
Like OpenSCAD, you can set
scalable piece.
Yeah, you set your dimensions for each part that you need, and then you tell it go. So you could be like, my overall object should be 120 millimeters by 120, and my hex holes should all be 13 millimeters, right, with a 5 millimeter
at
inset.
This height or something, right? Like that's the one thing that if someone has really set up the and you can do that to some degree in Fusion, which is really so. They have the, what is it called, parametric, is that what it's called? Where you define your variables. So in Fusion you can define your variables of, this is the height, this is that, this bolt hole is this, and then you define all those, and then you can then scale. So you can scale everything around the bolt holes that don't change size and whatnot. So there are ways of doing that stuff, but there's also a lot of forethought and engineering and planning in it to get to that point where it's scalable.
And I enjoy OpenSCAD, and I've used it quite a bit, but sometimes it's the wrong tool. But that could be said about anything we do, right? Like when you think about 3D printing and this hobby as a whole, there's several different printer styles you can use, right? There's several different slicers you can use, and I would encourage you to switch slicers for projects, right? So let's come back to Depumpkin, right?
There's still reasons to switch back and forth between slicers, whether it's model specific, right? Like you said, that model tree supports would have worked wonderful on, right? And then now both of them work well. Out of the box, I barely did any tweaking to get my PETG printing for the project I did with my Frunk. And I had very little stringing until I started tweaking. As soon as I started tweaking, I got some stringing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back to the factory. And so it's kind of funny. I've had a really good experience with Kira. And so the other day I went and helped a teacher out in a classroom. And she was using the Creality slicer.
Kira,
Well, but yeah,
4.8.
yeah, whatever, an old one, right?
Yeah.
And so I set up Prusa and Kira, and just went over kind of the basics with her, and try both, see which one works better for you. Like, so they're both set up, so now she has the option of trying out both.
Yep.
And I showed her how to do various simple things in both.
Yep.
And showed them, well, this is how you do it here, and this is how you do it here. This is what you would, just here's just a few different basic scenarios for the models that they were printing, and give it a try.
Yep.
And so, and then the logic was interesting is we put 4 of the same model on the build plate, and you do auto arrange. It's interesting to see how each one does the logic of how it places the models in relation to each other, because Kira placed it very randomly, but Prusa placed it more linear.
Yeah.
Kind of. It was very interesting, and she goes, oh, I like the way that one places it. Yeah, but again, you can manually put it anywhere you want, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just every slicer has its own little quirks and whatnot that you have to learn as you go. But I like both. I haven't found a third one that I really like yet, but my 2 primary ones, and like the last month I've been using Kira exclusively, and it's been working fine.
Yep. Speaking of the Kira thing,
yeah.
I know a lot of guys just got onto like 5.1 and the new version there, but there's a new version. The beta is out for 5.2.
Yeah, so release candidates will be coming soon too, I'm sure.
Then there's a lot of there's some new features. There's actually like 4 new features.
Anything stand out for you, David?
Yes, 1. Auto remove holes from not completely solid models in vase mode. So they're going to make vase mode easier for you to print now.
Okay, so basically, where you would normally do a repair in like 3D Builder, or you do the repair of a leaky model.
Yeah.
If it had a weird surface area that when you go vase mode that left a big gap, it now can auto fix it. Is that what?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like when there was holes in the vase mode before too, like as it was printing, sometimes you get weird jumps across.
Oh, remember when we did that one print?
Yeah, I was like, what?
And we were wondering what the heck, why is it going from there to there? It literally, it was, we were confused with what was going on, and
like,
it was
firmware or what. But that was also 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But
the other fun thing is if you print and you change your nozzle size and it's wrong, you get really interesting prints.
You do. You get really interesting. They're like soft and smushy.
Because your extrusion's all wrong.
Yeah. I mean, other stuff in the so there's a lot of bug fixes, and I didn't actually notice them, but they put a lot of time. There's some tree support bug fixes in there, and an additional feature where you can set the actual width of the trunk of the tree, which is actually the max width. That's a good one.
That's kind of neat. The one that just jumped out at me, just because we were talking about it, is random seam is now more random.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, well, if you know anything about computer science programming, you know that there's really no such thing as a random number.
it's
so it's good when they can make it more random.
You have to really work hard at making a random number.
Here's an interesting one that directly affects Greg and I. Kira now has native support for the T-Rex 2 and the T-Rex 3 from IDEX printers. So we actually have one I forget I think it was Vivendo when we bought it, but we have one of them, and now it supports natively IDEX on that printer. So
yeah,
if you have IDEX,
true.
there's actual IDEX profiles in there now, which is really good.
That's actually really cool.
See, you thought I was joking first.
I did, because we don't personally have an IDAX, but
No.
there's one in our
So
district.
like
Yes. Yeah.
you do
Okay.
have. I mean,
All
they
right.
had some IDACs there before, but like now they have more.
And it was very difficult in Kira
Yep.
to set up IDEX. So having
Some
having
profiles in there.
some profiles in there
Yep.
that are preset up with some start and ng code and switching, like that's going to be hopefully a game changer if it works well. I guess we'll have to maybe try it out.
Yep. Yep. Now there's an interesting section. Um, if you guys don't know, you can jump to the Kira releases GitHub to see all of this stuff. But like, there's an interesting section at the bottom that says we know, but we haven't fixed them yet, but it's coming. And we talked about the random seam placement, and then in the known critical issues, they're like, well, we fixed it a little bit, but it's still messed up, and it's going to be fixed even better. So there's a fix to the fix coming. And
Yeah.
they're also fixing support for detailed models. So like, the smaller the model, or the more it changes and shifts, the more support you have to add or take away. And it's an interesting thing, because I don't know if you guys have printed Kira miniatures. Has anybody done miniatures in Kira, or am I the only one? I doubt it.
I've done a few.
So
Like,
the detail on them usually is good, but like if there's an overhang on them, sometimes the support thinks like, oh, you can just bridge that, and it bridges over nothing and just bloop. Ooh, hey, we got a really good problem today. It's YouTube's complaining about our stream having too much bitrate. Got 10,000, and it's like you should have 2,500. What's going on? So it's buttery smooth for you guys.
oh well, that's
Buttery.
oh well.
So we got we got a few minutes left. We talked about Kira. We're before we jump into the last topic, I do want to mention one thing that we have coming up, and this is going to be a Discord question for some of you, since it directly affects the Patreons first. So if you're not a Patreon, you can jump over to patreon.com/make it and become a Patreon. And that gets you access to our wonderful Discord server with all our friends that we have a great time on.
We do.
Of which we are very appreciative. And thank you for being Patreon members. Hold on. Greg did the thing. Okay, there.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Oh,
Just hold
dang
on.
it. Now you're all big.
Hold on,
and
just hold on.
you're
I
embarrassing
realized,
yourself now. You're just big. No, just kidding.
I just realized that I put up the wrong one.
Oh, we have two of them.
Yeah,
And
just,
the smaller
but-
the smaller the model, the harder to remove supports, right? And then that's where you can tweak the Z gap distance and all that stuff. And we've talked about the Z gap distance. We have a video talking about the Z gap distance. If you want to go check it out, we printed John Wick. Do you have the thing yet? There it is. Thank you for being our friends. We're not demonetized. That was only 3 seconds. You guys are great. If you're on this list, we appreciate you. Even if you're not on the list, we appreciate you, but we appreciate these guys like we would trade our lunch snacks with them in school. That's
Absolutely.
how much. That's how much.
Yeah.
So, the thing that affects the Patreons is we have talked about getting together some sort of firmware workshop, which we do often, just to kind of go through Marlin and probably.
And we've mentioned it a couple times over the last.
So
few
we
weeks
need your
and
help, though. We need your help specifically. So if you
Hey,
are
Beer.
if you're in the Discord, if you have me on Discord personally, if you have us on the Twitters, the info@3dmakeit.ca, any of those things, we need to know what time of day. So for Greg and I, ideally what we would do is start like 8 or 9 Mountain Time.
Yeah, we were thinking of splitting it up also, and doing a recorded piece, like kind of here's your homework, here's our presentation, here's your homework, and then we would do a coordinated live one at a best, and this is what David's talking about, a best time to get together with everyone to do the Q&A live piece of it.
Yep, because we know
And
we
so-
have like international friends, and we want to make sure everybody can come, and everybody's here right now. So like, what my hope is if we can say like I don't know what time it is for some of you folks across the sea from us. We're Canada, if you don't know, but like if we started at 9 o'clock and went till right like say noon, like we do on this one. That gives us time to go through stuff, get questions. We'll do a couple sessions like that for the workshop. So does 9? So right now it's like noon Mountain Standard. So that's so then picture 9 Mountain Standard, like what? 4 hours ago? 3 hours ago? 3 hours ago? 3 hours? That's how math works, right? Yeah. 3 or 4 hours ago.
Sure.
So what time is it for you for 3 or 4 hours? Local Maker, we don't actually have an open Discord. So once you join Patreon, you'll get the join information, but we don't have we don't have like a general public Discord link. We do, but nobody's in it anymore.
we initially made a public one for a limited time, and then we started the Patreon, and so now you get access to it becoming a Patreon member. And so feel free to look at our Patreon 3D Patreon/3D Make It, I think it is, to get to our Patreon. And yeah, you can definitely become part of our Discord, but feel free to throw questions at info@3dmakeit.ca. And we can answer them there.
Yep.
But what the main thing we're looking to do is our first go around at setting this up is for our patrons. So any of our patrons will get first access to this course. We'll see how it goes, and then once we have our feedback from everyone, then we kind of tweak the format so that it works well for everyone. Then we can then proceed with maybe opening it up to more people beyond the patrons.
It looks
that's
like,
that's the idea
from the chat, like, because we got a couple Norway folk. I think there's some Netherlands folk that pop in and out, but they're not in Patreon. But like they're saying it's 8 o'clock right now there, like PM in the evening. So if we started at like 9 or 8, it would be like 4
now
their time. And then Pierre's in Edmonton, which is like
Matthew. What if you're still here? What time is it in the UK? Because you were from the UK, so
UK Standard Time. Anyway, it's something we got to figure out. Greg and I are incredibly busy at work, in real life, so it probably won't be till December, I think.
We're actually going to a conference and doing a 3D printing presentation at a conference next week. So
I was thinking if we can trick Jesse or somebody into letting us use the camera, we could record it and then put it on YouTube. That'd be funny.
The good camera was destroyed.
We'll bring the drone.
Have it hovering at the back of the room.
Where? So like we're doing a presentation in Red Deer, Alberta, at some hotel that I don't even remember the name of.
It's the.
No, don't tell them, because then they'll come stalk us. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we're doing, it's for a conference for Alberta education.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, UK is not that far away from Norway, so
okay, 7 p.m.
Yeah, I can't see it being too terribly different. But yeah, we'll be up. I mean, I wish we were in Edmonton, because we do have friends up in Edmonton too that like we could hang out.
We are going to be in the Red Deer area.
Yeah, we'll be in the Red Deer area
on the what's it, the
14th, the Friday this week, 14th, Wednesday to Friday.
Yeah, Wednesday to Friday. So
if you're in that area and you want to get together,
Thursday evening, maybe we can do a meetup if someone's around.
Yeah,
that's a possibility. So
hit us up on Discord if you're
Discord
around.
or info@3dmakeit.ca.
And remember, there's two of us, so you can't abduct us. Mm-mm.
Well,
I mean,
you
if you bring
could,
four
but-
people, I guess. I don't know. Don't abduct us. We're friendly people.
but we will be in Red Deer on those days, and so our evenings
Is it
will be
daylight
fairly
saving
free.
time? That's not till November here, isn't it? I want to. Dang it, Stig.
Yeah,
Dang
it's in November.
Yeah, it's like
So
I think
we
it's the
we
second
don't
week or something.
change till the second Sunday in
Yeah,
November. I want to say. So
I really
we're-
wish we wouldn't change again, but hey.
Yeah.
Fun fact: did you know most people have heart attacks around that time? If you're going to have a heart attack, yeah,
That's not a fun fact.
no, that's actually a terrible fact. When is daylight? When
October 30th in Norway.
it could be then that here too.
No, ours the second week in November.
Yeah, we tried to vote against it, but they asked the wrong question.
Yeah.
They asked it backwards.
Instead of standard time, Mountain Standard Time, they wanted to do Mountain Daylight Time, and that would have just been really weird.
Read local
So,
maker's comment.
Yeah.
Read local maker's comment.
If you kidnap them, you have to feed them and water them. We're not opposed to that.
No. I mean, by feed you mean high quality dining, right?
Yeah, Wendy's it is.
Yeah, Wendy's. That truck's been out there for a long time. It smells funny. I don't know. So we do have like one more thing, but we are getting to the top of the hour, and I think the last thing that we have deserves more time than we have to give it.
One thing I'd like to say, because I haven't said this yet, I put it in the title, is to all our Canadian friends,
Oh yeah.
happy Thanksgiving weekend,
Happy
because it's a long
Thanksgiving.
weekend.
It
here.
is.
And just out of curiosity, I looked up online to try to see kind of what holidays there are in other regions. Like Stig, for example, is he in
Norway.
Finland or Norway?
I don't remember anymore.
But it's Father's Day somewhere.
Is it really?
It's like, yeah, it's like what?
Couple Pierre says, yeah.
So
I
so
mean-
happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and I know the U.S. Watchers are going to be like, "What are you talking about? It's a month away."
Right?
Not in Canada.
No, we do this now. Let's see. In Norway, this is a Happy United Nations Day.
There you go.
Maybe. I don't know. Oh, Stig, thank you,
Hey,
buddy.
Stig, thank you so much
Um,
for that. That's
so
awesome.
We're
Thank
going to
you.
communicate a lot about this workshop again, first in Discord, because it's a Patreon event. And I know some of you direct talk to me. I am Norway. See, Norway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew he was Norway.
So like we'll pop up more questions. I look like honestly, I'm looking at the calendar, and Greg and I actually enjoy a week off
Around Christmas.
around Christmas, so we
Yeah.
could take a day during that period or two.
Yeah,
But-
we still have to kind of work on the format.
Yep,
But I think having we kind of talked about possibly a recorded piece that goes out first.
Yep.
So that you guys can kind of go through that, and then you'll have questions and whatnot, and then we can have collect questions and then do the live piece.
Yeah.
So
Happy
and then,
Columbus
and then
Day.
maybe do that in a couple series. So like you have one recorded, one live, one recorded, one live, something like that. But we haven't worked
yeah,
out the format
yeah.
exactly. So.
Stick says Christmas. What's that? It's the commercial holiday where you hold each other hostages for gifts.
Yeah. That's the one.
Yep. Happy Columbus Day. So yes, we'll have like a format coming up. It's one thing that's like it's going to take more time, but it will be worthwhile. But like I said, we have one last topic other than the stuff, but like we're out of time, legitimately. So I'll say this: thank you for the coffee steak.
Yes.
It's
that-
amazing.
that-
Thank you.
So we'll make sure that we spend it on some coffee during our
Yeah,
conference.
we'll send you the pictures of Tim Hortons in the Discord.
There you go.
Yeah. We appreciate all you guys coming out, hanging out. I hope to be back for more than 2 weeks, but we'll see how that works out. We're going to a bunch of conferences with a bunch of
Yeah.
people, so
Yeah. So hopefully, knock on wood, that neither of us get sick
well,
again.
they say the third time's the charm, so I can't get it the fourth.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either at all. Anyway, thank you guys for being awesome. Until next time, have a good one, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.